Hello, and welcome to Opt to Thrive, episode 30 Self-Care or Selfish?
Welcome to Opt to Thrive, your go-to podcast for women's wellness in midlife, designed to educate, support, and inspire you to live your very best life. And now your host, Dr. Corina Sims.
Welcome. Man, today has been an amazing day. It is Saturday. I think I'll go on about the weather because it is pretty spectacular out there. Blue sky. It is autumn, but again, we've had a decent day today. I don't know exactly how warm it is, but it's not bad for an autumn day. But the reason that this day has been particularly awesome is because I don't really know how long ago. It was probably a month or two ago. I organized a fundraising event for today, a Mother's Day retro step aerobics session, but not on Mother's Day. Today's a Saturday. We did it the day before Mother's Day. So if you follow me on my socials, I recently, in the last few months or so, started doing some step aerobics, maybe 10 minutes or more after my weight training sessions. Sometimes, not all the time, but I was doing it more than I am now. But went through the stage where I was doing a bit more. And I was asking myself, like, why did we stop doing step aerobics? It certainly isn't available here in our regional community. I have since learned that there are other areas that still do have step aerobics offered, that we do not have that here. So I was doing these step aerobics off of like YouTube videos and I was having such a ball. It was so fun. And I remembered the days where, I was a regular stepper. In fact, I did step aerobics until I was, I think, 8 months pregnant with my daughter. So 25 years ago. And at the end, very, very heavily pregnant and couldn't actually even use the step, but just loved it. And so it made me want to do more. I wanted to do a full class. And there are a few instructors locally. They're retired now, retired step instructors. One is one of my very best friends. I didn't even know that she did step aerobics. I think maybe she had mentioned it somewhere along the way, but I hadn't recalled until I started thinking about this kind of scheme to get everyone together and do a proper step class. And then I found out. So we got 3 girls out of retirement to do the step class, and they all took a portion. So like probably 15 minutes a piece, I think. And we made it a retro step so we could dress up and do it all to kind of 80s and 90s music. And we made it as a fundraiser to make a little bit of money for the Jane McGraw Foundation. So the Jane McGraw Foundation supplies breast care nurses. I understand most recently they've actually extended that to cancer care nurses. So it's not just breast care, but in the past it has just been breast cancer nurses. We've got one here in the Riverland who looks after our women who are battling breast cancer. It's a cause near and dear to my heart. I fortunately have not had anyone close to me succumb, I suppose, to breast cancer. I have had some friends who have battled breast cancer and won fabulously. We are winning that battle more often these days, thankfully. But 1 in 7 of us are going to battle breast cancer at some stage in our lives. And I certainly have had many, 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 many patients along the way who have battled breast cancer, some unfortunately who have not been successful. So it is near and dear to my heart. And every time I get a chance to do any kind of fundraising, it's generally kind of thrown at this cause. So we had an amazing turnout. I wasn't exactly sure, what to expect because I just put it up on my socials. It was shared a couple of times. There was some word of mouth, and I didn't do a head count, but it was a reasonable amount. All the steps that we set out, looking at the photos today, I think there were 2 steps that didn't get used. So it was fabulous. We had a really fun time and then went for coffee after in our little outfits. I was probably the most outrageous, I think. Although Tasha, she was a little bit outrageous as well. Oh, Julie was outrageous too. We were all outrageous. But I did go the G-string route. I didn't even wear one of those in the 80s. it's so funny that I am, 30 years older and I have that much more body confidence. I, you know, not that I think that I have an amazing body, but I'm very happy in my own skin and probably the happiest and most comfortable, I suppose, the most comfortable in my own skin than I've ever been in my entire life. Feel very fit and strong. And, I have all the things that most women complain about, the stretch marks and a bit of cellulite and a few little rolls. But I am fit and I am strong and I am quite happy to rock the G-string, which was hilarious. It was really fun. I even crimped my hair and wore the whole side pony. And anyway, it was just a lot of fun. And we've decided it was such a success. And so many women contacted me who were unable to make it, really hoping that we'll do it again. So we have decided that we are going to make it an annual event and do a Mother's Day weekend step class next year as well. And hopefully it'll carry on into the future. We used to have a Mother's Day fun run in the Riverland. I think a lot of places probably still do have it. And it was a breast cancer fundraising event. But I think COVID came and that went with COVID. So here we are. We're going to make our own. So lots of fun, raised a little money, and had a ball. So today we're going to talk about self-care because it's something I think that we don't do well, most of us women. So recently I've been having some discussions with my patients and I've been using this analogy that I came up with. So in my mind's eye, I look at this whole aging process as a bit of a mountain. We somewhat easily get up to the top of the mountain, and so I call that midlife. We really get up there without having to do a whole heck of a lot, right? We've been going, our young, fit bodies just kind of put up with a lot of the neglect and sometimes downright abuse that we threw at them. I know I, for one, for example, did not ever consider sleep a priority until I got to the top of the mountain. And I no longer had the luxury of sleeping 8 hours anytime that I had the opportunity to get 8 hours in because my midlife body is no longer cooperating in that way. Now, many of you out there got up to the top of that mountain without doing much exercise. Some may have flogged their bodies with long, grueling workouts. A lot of us didn't put a lot of thought into their diet unless maybe they were actually dieting. So a lot of us have hit this midlife period and find ourselves exhausted and overworked with all of our jobs, mom, daughter, wife, employee, friend, with some of those relationships being really quite complicated and energy depleting in and of themselves. Many of us find ourselves totally overwhelmed, disorganized, maybe not as fit as we'd like to be, maybe drinking a bit more alcohol than we'd like, not making the food choices that we know would help us feel better physically, maybe using food or alcohol as a bit of an escape or comfort. Some of us are really just a hot mess to some degree, right? I remember a time in my life when I was feeling like I was juggling all of these balls, and to keep them all up in the air, I had to use my feet and maybe even bits of my body just to keep them up. And then every so often, I just couldn't keep them all off the ground. So I'd drop one and then maybe I'd drop another. Maybe I'd drop the whole lot, right? I'd have a little meltdown, give myself a little pity party, and then eventually I'd dust myself off, work out what I needed to do to get those balls back up in the air, and then get going again. So now here we are finding ourselves at the top of this mountain, and we're gonna have to come down the other side. We are now starting to notice, or maybe we've been noticing for a little while, that our bodies are noticeably starting to deteriorate. They are starting to really need some maintenance and upkeep. Many of us are also feeling those hormonal shifts, which really can well and truly complicate everything. But here's the thing. We all have to come down the other side of this mountain. Some of us are going to go hell for leather and just jump off the other side of the mountain. They're probably going to break some bones, do some damage. They could get to the bottom pretty quickly, or they may have a long, drawn-out journey of suffering. But I think that we have some power over how we come down this mountain. There are going to be some little snags and rocks and boulders along the way that we'll just have to find a way over or through or under. But if we're fit and we're strong and mentally resilient, our chances of success are much higher. And we'll certainly get over or through or under these obstacles much easier, fit and strong, than if we're not fit and strong. I think that most of us know what we should be doing. Yes, many of us are shoulding all over ourselves. We tell ourselves we should exercise, we should eat better, we should sleep more, drink less, get organized, manage our stress better. Oh, and hold down a job, manage the house, keep everyone from starving, look after our aging parents or children still at home or children not still at home. And when we even dare to have a look at it all like that, it's huge. It's overwhelming. And where do we even start? You know what? I get it. It is easier to just order a pizza and have another glass of wine and save that plan for another day. We might just try to accept this body that we found ourselves in and ignore those thoughts that maybe we could feel better in and about our bodies. Or we can take a step back and approach this problem in a way that maybe we haven't before. I would like to suggest that there is a tried and true way of dealing with overwhelm that is very effective. Every time something seems too overwhelming, I want you to remember this solution because it works each and every time. When something feels huge and feels completely overwhelming, I want you to break it down into baby steps. You need to ask yourself, what baby step could I do today? Baby step. What is the smallest, best first step, next step to head in the direction I want to go? I'm going to suggest that for many of us, that very first step is getting our head around making ourselves a priority. A lot of us have found ourselves here in midlife putting self-care on the bottom or somewhere close to the bottom of our priority list. Many of us are so conditioned to think that anything less than putting ourselves last is selfish. And God forbid we be selfish. I had a patient recently who was really running herself into the ground and her health was starting to suffer. I sat back and I listened and man, I get it. She's got some serious shit on her plate. She's got some really heavy responsibilities. I said, look, I know it's a cliche, but it's really true. Most of us would have heard that it's like being on an airplane when the pressure drops and the oxygen masks come down, that we're told to put the mask on ourselves before we help those around us who might not be able to do it themselves, like our children. I said it really is like that. She was appalled and literally pulled back away from me, looking at me like I had just suggested we sacrifice her youngest child. So we talked through it. What good is she to anyone if she is unconscious? If you do not put your oxygen mask on, you will go unconscious and then you will not be any good to anyone else. As we talked through it, she did seem to come around a bit, but the idea of putting herself in any way before those she felt responsible for was a very foreign concept. And she's not alone. Many women tend to prioritize themselves last because that is the way that we have been conditioned. For some of us, our value is tied to our caregiving. We feel guilty or selfish when we even consider our own needs. These patterns are often reinforced by unequal responsibilities in our relationships and in poor work-life balance. I want to suggest that self-care isn't selfish. It's absolutely essential. Taking care of our physical, mental, and emotional health allows us to show up as our very best selves for our relationships and for our work. When we neglect our own needs, burnout, resentment, stress, and impacts on our physical health are often the result. Now, let me be really clear. Self-care is not about neglecting others. It is about making sure that you do not neglect your needs while also fulfilling your responsibilities. It isn't necessarily about going to a luxury spa, but it could be. If that is available to you and you can make that work, then go for it. But it is about prioritizing time, regardless of how busy your schedule is, to engage in activities that bring you joy and relaxation. Now, I can hear it. I know what you're saying, but I don't have enough time. I hear this all the time. So here's a couple of simple strategies for you to get you off and running. Okay, again, baby steps. Start small. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be an hour-long bubble bath or even a weekend getaway. Although those things are great, and if you can squeeze them in, then by all means. But 5 to 10 minutes of finding a quiet space to do some intentional breathing, stretching, or sitting quietly can really reset your mind and your body. Going for a walk, if that is available to you. I would like to suggest that if you have the time to scroll on your phone, you have time to care for yourself. There are activities that you could do that would leave you feeling a lot better than you do compared to scrolling on your phone. Number 2, make it a part of what you're already doing. Listen to a calming podcast while you're cooking or you're driving. You can practice mindfulness while you're brushing your teeth. Add a few stretches right before you go to bed or after you wake up in the morning, before the whole world wakes up and it's on. Find a way to weave self-care into your day rather than adding on top of it. In terms of making more time, here are a few other strategies to consider. How can you automate things? Make routines. I used to go to the grocery store multiple times a week, many times hungry after work, and we know that that never ends well. I would race around like a madwoman in the mornings doing my ironing, but no more. I now do my lunch prep, my grocery shopping, and my ironing for the week every Sunday without fail. It's just something that I do. It's part of my Sunday routine. I've got it down to a T. It's very efficient and it's quick. Well, as quick as it can be. That leaves me so much more headspace in the week. My lunch times are a time to regroup without having to do much at all. My mornings are so much less stressful. And I make much better food choices because I have avoided decision fatigue by doing it all ahead of time. Our dinners in the week, who am I kidding? Even most weekends are easy peasy. I only cook complicated meals now every so often and only when I really feel like doing it. So ask yourself, in what non-critical areas can you aim for good enough? Where can you use shortcuts like pre-cut veggies? How can you make things a bit easier? Ask yourself, is done just as good as perfect in this situation? Stop trying to do everything perfectly. Delegate or ask for help. Ask your partner or your kids to take responsibility for age-appropriate tasks. Outsource if you can, even small things like grocery delivery. If you can make that a part of your week, maybe when you have a few minutes to yourself, doing the grocery shopping online and having it delivered, getting a cleaner. I'll never forget when I first got a cleaner. I had gone to dinner with my girlfriends who none of them at the time, no, I take it back. One of them had children. The other two did not have children. These are all, it was a little med school kind of catch up with my girlfriends who were also doctors. They all had cleaners. I did not. I was a single parent. At that time, I think I had just met my husband. So that relationship was evolving, but I had never had a cleaner. And somehow in my head, I had it that it was something that I felt good about cleaning after my family. Now it just seems so silly. And when I heard that two of them had cleaners and they didn't even have children, that was it. I was okay. Well, forget that then. Like I can afford to have a cleaner. I am going to do that. And I have never looked back. It has been the biggest help to clear my plate of something that I don't really enjoy doing. It gives me extra time to do other things. So again, if it's something that you can afford and it's an option, then why wouldn't you? Okay, another one. Don't automatically say yes. We've talked about this before. The art of saying no. One of my mindful moments. Go back and have a listen because I think it's pretty useful. I would like to suggest we use a pause rule. Whenever you're asked to do something, I would suggest you say, let me check my schedule and I'll get back to you, or something to that effect. I often say that I need to check with my husband. And it is true because, I have been caught out. We've all been caught out where you say yes to something and then it conflicts with something that your partner's maybe wanting to do or has also committed to doing. So it just gives you a little space to really consider whether or not it's something that you really want to do, whether it's something that fits into your life, right? So before you commit, and it keeps you from overcommitting. And also practice saying no without over-explaining. A simple, I can't commit to that right now is enough. Thank you for asking. I truly believe that when women understand the importance of self-care and they incorporate self-care practices into their lives, not only do they set a really important example for those around them, and I'm thinking here of our daughters in particular, but we can improve our chances of coming down the other side of that mountain fit and strong and confident and ready to take on life's challenges and really sucking the nectar out of life, enjoying every moment that we can. So that's what I have for you today, guys. I really do believe that most of us know exactly what we could be doing to feel better, feel stronger, feel more confident, have more energy. But all of the things that we think that we need to do at once, it's just too overwhelming. So again, if you could think about it in a way that isn't so overwhelming, that you just start with one little thing and work your way up from there. After a month, after 3 months, after 6 months, imagine what you will have built by then, just by slowly adding one thing to the next. All right, guys, that's what I've got. So thank you for joining me. I hope that this has been helpful for you. As I always say, please pass it on if you can think of someone else who might get something from this. I'll also just mention that I have created a document called the Up to Thrive Big Five. It is a document that I've been passing on to the ladies that I see in my menopause clinic. It's the 5 things that we need to be doing coming down the other side of that mountain. If you would like your own copy, I will put a link to that in the show notes so you can get a copy for yourself. And also, I'm building an email list because I've got lots of things on the go, lots of exciting projects I'm looking at doing in the future. And so if you want to join that email list, I'll also pop that link into the show notes. I am doing my first ever webinar in a couple of weeks' time when this airs. It's going to be on the 21st of June at 9 a.m. It will be recorded, so if you can't make it on that Saturday morning, you will be able to access it. I will make sure that I get that link out at some stage and let you know about it when I've got that up and ready. That webinar is going to be all about what's happening to our bodies, trying to answer those questions about weight gain in particular around this midlife period. A lot of women believe that menopause has put the weight on them, but there's more to the story than that. So I am going to spend some time talking about what's happening to our bodies physiologically during this time, and in particular, body composition changes and how we can manage them. There are a few keys, a couple of things that I have done myself and have been consistently doing for the last, at least couple of years, that I am feeling really good and strong and confident. And, if you've been listening for a while, you've probably picked that up. I feel very good physically. And I just want to share that with all of you out there. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the show notes for that as well. And please don't forget to rate and review the podcast, because it does make it more visible to those who are looking for this information. And I would be very grateful. All right. Thank you guys. Have a great week. And until then, I hope you opt to thrive.
The Opt to Thrive podcast is designed for information purposes only and is not engaged in the giving of medical advice. The information provided on the podcast should not be used for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease. In no way should the information provided by Opt to Thrive be considered medical advice, and at all times the advice of a medical professional should supersede recommendations from Opt to Thrive. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, you should consult your healthcare provider. The views expressed in this podcast are purely that of Dr. Sims and do not in any way reflect those of the institutions she contracts medical services to.
Thank you for listening to Opt to Thrive. If you've enjoyed listening, please rate and share the podcast. You can visit our website at opttothrive.com and leave a comment for any subjects you would like to hear more about.